Okay, I'll call to order this regular meeting of the Citizens Advisory Committee of Monroe County, the Waste Reduction District of Monroe County. It's the third Thursday of March. It's the 20th, 2025 at 5:34 p.m. Will the Vice Chair please call roll?
Okay. William Goins.
Here.
Matthew Austin, here. John Arnold.
Present.
Lucas Bradley. Paul White. Joseph Winia.
Here.
All right, we have quorum.
All right, thank you very much. So I wasn't able to join the meeting, so I can't put my agenda on the screen share, but the agenda was distributed by email and put up on Dropbox on Tuesday, March 18th. Is there any objection to adopting the agenda as distributed? All right, I do have two proposed changes. First, I did not distribute the minutes with the agenda, so I'd like to postpone those to the next meeting. Also, I'd like to add under special reports an update from the organics task force. So are there any objections to those changes? Nope. All right, perfect. So with that, since we are going, or the agenda is adopted, since we're going without the meeting minutes, we'll go on to reports, starting with the district, if you would, Tom.
Well, let's see. I guess we'll update. There's I don't know if you followed at the board meeting. I don't know how much of a legislative update I've done for the CAC, but there was a number of bills this legislative session that we were monitoring. And of all the ones that we were monitoring, only 3 House bills and 1 Senate bill actually made it over to the other chamber. And at this point, none of the 4 had any action. One has actually had a hearing and they held it in committee. They said they would bring it back up, but they held it in committee for the time being. But so the bills that are still moving, one was originally drafted to address executive sessions of a governing body and add some additional topics that would be covered by the executive sessions. Well, that's still there. That's since been amended to, for lack of a better way to phrase it, it appears that somebody added amendments trying to fix all of the virtual meeting stuff that was rushed through when COVID hit. So they're shoring up some of the requirements of the virtual components of public meetings. And the one tidbit that's in there is it does provide a mechanism for the public to challenge the actions taken at a meeting if there's a problem with the virtual, any disruption of the streaming or it's any technological failure. So that's something that we're watching. Another House bill had to do with doing public notices on a website that the state would establish that would satisfy the statutory public notice requirements. That did make it out of the House into the Senate. Obviously, the newspaper lobby is very vocal against that bill. That is the one that did get one hearing in the Senate committee and is still in that committee. Another one is a bill that has to do, title is waste disposal. But what it does is define illegal dumping and make that a criminal offense, misdemeanor. So that's one that we're pleased to see and following. And it made it through the House 95-0. Well, it certainly has bipartisan support there. The one Senate bill we're watching is an environmental matters bill, but what it has in it is cybersecurity requirements for a publicly owned wastewater treatment works, which the leachate treatment plant at the landfill would qualify, would be defined as publicly owned treatment work. So that's one that we're watching because that would certainly, if it goes through, would have an impact on us. And, potentially a financial impact that may or may not be significant. I understand the purpose behind the bill. Talked to a couple of senators and requested that maybe an amendment be proposed to have it apply to facilities that are doing over X thousand gallons a day. So, I mean, I don't view our facility that's doing 25,000 gallons a day as a priority target for somebody that really wants to do something. So we'll see what happens with that. I did report at the last board meeting. We did get the waste tire grant from ITEM that we applied for in an amount of $10,000. So we're working with the tire vendor and we'll work to schedule some tire amnesty days. At least one later this year. We hope there's enough money to do two, which whether or not the second one will be this year or next spring, kind of see how things time out and how things go. So, let's see, other than that, new extensions, lease is up for renewal. That'll hopefully go to the board next month. Landfill financial assurance is coming due. Just a regular routine stuff for us.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, questions?
On the tire, does the second day being a possibility depend on how many tires are collected the first time, which impacts the financial viability? Or why would the second day not be viable, or why would it be viable?
Well, I think the second day will be viable regardless. But some of it will depend on, when we can get that first day scheduled and how many, what we take in.
Okay, so it is what
We have, the grant is $10,000. But, if we can get that higher day scheduled, before the end of June, and we, use up most of that money, well, then it's possible to account for doing a second one, to use the rest of the money next year and make up the difference in the budget for next year. If we know ahead of time that we need that extra money. So,
okay.
and even irregardless, there's always opportunities to seek additional appropriations. So I think it's doable. Just what happens at that first event will dictate when and how we can do a second one.
Got it. Thank you.
Other questions? All right, thanks, John. For district reports, I have nothing to report as the chair. So we'll go on to reports of special committees. What I just wanted to provide was an update on the organics task force group efforts to pilot or explore a neighborhood collective composting program where we basically put together through the survey a list of residents in Monroe County who responded and are composting and willing to accept waste from neighbors, and then residents who are interested in composting but not do it at their property and bring it to someone else's property. And so we've identified a handful of places that we would like to start the pilot with. And so Tom has already reached out to, I believe, one household is accepting, but willing to accept material. And then once we go through the setup process for them, we'll connect them with somebody who wants to drop off material and then see how that goes. So I'm just gonna visit that house, that property next week. See what their setup is, what they're proposing for additional waste to be brought in, and plan from there.
Are we expected to have any permits for those things?
No, the get-go, the intent is to keep any one property's compost pile less than 300 square feet, which is the state threshold at which you start to trigger
All right, checks and balances.
regulation,
Okay.
supervision from the state.
So on that, if you can make a comment.
Yeah.
I apologize for missing the past two meetings. Next week, my sister and I are presenting to Earth Care, which are 7 faith-based communities that work on climate change initiatives. They're having, I think, maybe ESD or somebody from Sustainability Department presenting the first half of the meeting. We're presenting the second half of the meeting to present Bokashi captains as well into that. I'm also going to bring the survey along so we can hopefully expand the amount of data that we have from these communities to find more potential applicants for the compost captains. And then they have access to a larger community, which we will hopefully present to after that. But I'm also going to ask for their next month's meeting if your nonprofit can present to them as well, because I'm sure they have members in the community that are part of apartment complexes that want to take advantage of or want to take care of the earth. And then I'm also going to present to them for the next meeting after that to have Community Culture Inc., which, if you don't remember what community culture is, they have they take gardening spaces that are not being used all over Monroe County, and they actually garden that. Small portion goes to the landowner, and the rest goes to nonprofits that provide food to disadvantaged individuals in the county. So I hope that's okay if I suggest that, because I'm trying to get exposure to those that are making a difference in our world when it comes to food waste.
Just, since the survey has been out for a while, just mention that if you've already filled out the survey,
Okay.
because it's still the same database.
Right, we don't need duplicates.
Right.
Okay, thank you for the coaching. And then the other part is on March 29th, at the Community Orchard, Garden Cube is doing a free training on Bokashi from 3 to 4:30. So we want, community members to attend so they can start learning about that, so they can take the mantra of the Waste Reduction District of Monroe County, our world, our responsibility. I absolutely love that tagline. And it really is our world and our responsibility. So we want people to take the responsibility for our food waste. And yes.
Thank you. Yeah. Any other questions?
Actually, one more comment. Sorry, I forgot. Bloomington's Earth Day on April 19th. We're also presenting Bokashi, and we will be teaching people to scrape their plates into the buckets at there to say this is very simple. It's easy to integrate into your current life. So if you guys are there, you will see Bokashi. Bokashi!
I'm sold.
All right, so that'll do it for our special committee reports. Don't have any special orders or unfinished business. So our next item is new business. The first one is just an opportunity to discuss the fall visit from last week. There were a few members of CAC who mentioned their gratitude for the organization of the trip and said it was interesting and productive. So I just wanted to also make an opportunity if anybody had any thoughts they wanted to add, anything they learned in particular to share.
Well, we learned a great deal about composting.
Okay.
Number one, I didn't realize composting could catch fire, so that was.
Did you set some compost on fire?
He was cheering as it was steaming.
Yeah, let's clarify for anybody watching that shows update on our home composting pilot
That does not happen.
home it's the industrial where you have to have that type of volume quantity of material to generate enough heat to combust.
I was really impressed with their depackaging facility, how they had hundreds of boxes of Ensure, and they were opening the boxes, dumping them into a pit, and then had a front loader pick up all of that packaged Ensure, dumping into a machine. That machine crushed the packaging, and you saw all of the Ensure liquid coming out into a vat, and they sucked that up into a truck and trucked it to their composting facility or land, and they dumped it into another pit, and then they took wood chips and cow manure and dumped that into the pit to soak up all that, and then they put that into their long rows, which once a week they would turn over with a machine that straddled the rows and had this, turning bit that would turn it. And that's where you would see the steam coming out that John was talking about. So I thought it was fascinating to see that depackaging facility. And they had stuff coming from Alabama, the South, from New York City, from Colorado. And so I was just really impressed with their level of competency and how they were able to accept materials from all over the country that I wouldn't have thought was compostable. And my impression was they have every opportunity to take every single thing from Monroe County and compost it and turn it into soil that they either use on their farm for the 4,000 acres or and sell to other farmers. And they even commented that their farmers around their property commented how green and how lush their soybeans and corn were because of the food waste and that they've been depackaging. So I truly believe that they have the capacity to handle all of Monroe County's food waste. It's just that we need more stakeholders. So that's my question. How do we get Cook, IU, Bloomington, Monroe County, enough stakeholders to share the costs to make this actually happen? Because as my sister so astutely put it, right now, the city of Bloomington is having all of their waste trucked, 66 miles away to Terre Haute.
Yeah.
Well, what is also 66 miles away?
Is it the same distance?
Where do they take it?
Whatever the landfill is. But what's also 66 miles away? Where we just went, Caldwell's. So it's the same distance and it's the same cost. Like, let's just say it's the same cost. I don't know exactly if it is or not. We'd have to do that. Probably not. But even if it's a little bit more expensive, right? We're reducing our landfill, right? While turning into a product that's completely usable. So for me, it's a no-brainer, but it really comes down to cost, which is why we need additional stakeholders to share that cost.
Well, maybe we could ship it there and not have them have to come and get it.
It's possible, maybe it's Rumpke that can help with that. We don't know, but we need to do it.
Yeah, but I mean, there either way, there's a cost to get it.
Right.
I mean, even if we do it ourselves, you still have the labor, the fuel costs, insurance and other
Considerations.
Yeah, I mean, so there's still a cost. Now, there might be ways to do it cheaper than what Caldwell has quoted at this point, but there's still gonna be a cost. And as said, it's, we need to try to share that cost amongst stakeholders that are interested in doing this. I would temper a little bit saying all, I know like Shelby County Solid Waste District does this. Caldwell, which are 30 miles away, and it's easy for them. But even they don't take meat and bone, just because the bin sits there for a period of time while it fills up, and then they just worry about odors, rodents, other vectors. They don't want to attract that stuff. So so
Thank you for tempering my excitement. I appreciate it.
So they were ensuring that waste product could be reused.
Oh, and they previous they hadn't. Excuse me.
yeah, I mean,
So-
it's certainly an intriguing.
Option.
Yeah, and I guess my immediate thought on it is that if it is something that we can get together and get enough stakeholders together that it makes sense for everybody to do it, I worry about this with the cost that they've quoted, the sustainability of that, because those costs are only going to go up. So, but it is certainly something that, could be put in place to get people in the habit and get it going. But I worry that we would need some sort of a plan, for in the next few years to have something local available,
Right.
closer available.
When I was impressed that they were willing to invest in, having a trucking depot essentially here, not knowing how much that would lower costs.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right. But it seemed like they had either deep enough pockets or investors that were willing to expand. And if they are pulling, for their depackaging facility from Colorado and Alabama and New York City, right?
Well, the stuff for the depackaging is packaged.
Right.
So you know,
Yeah, it's still different, but still it is going along.
it's not raw food going into a dumpster.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I just go back to if we're spending money to send it 66 miles away to a landfill, could we just divert that same amount of money or something similar to divert it to a better option that's still the same amount? Because if we're talking, you know, the climate impact of trucking at one place, well, it's the same to another place where the end result is better.
But the cost isn't the same.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough.
And you know, and you're right. I mean, it comes down to finances. And I'm not sitting here saying it's not doable.
I'm the optimist. I'm all gas, and you're like, okay, let's temper it. Here's the brake pedal. I appreciate that.
But it's more than us setting a dumpster somewhere and telling everybody to put their food waste in it and call Rumpke or Republic and say, haul it up there.
Right. Not so simple.
Yeah, I believe there was one representative from MCCSC. That was, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we had two true representatives from MCCSC.
Does that include Brad?
Yeah, it was Brad, and then
Okay.
I forget his
who he was.
name. One of his coworkers, and then everybody from CSC and Isabel Piedmont Smith as well. So I would like to have had more stakeholders, but I was really happy that Brad and his coworkers showed up.
Yeah.
So yeah, MCCSC is a big generator.
No doubt.
If they buy in, it's a big deal.
Right.
And part of this is, I'm going to go back to Garden Q and Bokashi. We're trying to present to MCC a multi-tiered program, because Bokashi is not going to solve the issue, but it does solve it on a small scale. But if you also have a larger scale option to combine with that, then it makes it much more appealing to them, because we can teach it on an educational level, and then those kids can take it home. But also then we have a larger scale option, because Bokashi can take all of the meat and the bones, no problem, right? So we have, you know, it's there's not going to be one solution for everything. It needs to be a mixture, including 3 bin systems from,
Sure.
you know, so if we can mesh those together, I feel like we can have something that can encompass the vast majority of what we need to do to keep these materials out of the.
I think, you know, the more options we can make available to people, the more we're going to pull out of the waste stream.
Yeah, the more buy-in we're going to have, absolutely. Yeah, we're just trying to focus as much on the decentralized option as possible, so that if one thing fails, we still have food waste not going to landfill.
Your thoughts on Colville visit?
I'd like to have been there.
It's a much bigger operation than I had anticipated,
Okay.
and it's an impressive,
It really
it's an
is.
impressive operation.
And I'm impressed with how much they could scale. Like, they weren't scared of growing more, and they were in fact saying we can grow a lot more. So that also is encouraging to me, is that they're not at
They
capacity.
say they're getting ready to pour a second 4-acre concrete
Yeah.
pad for the windrows.
And their biodigester.
Oh, yeah.
They've been approved for a biodigester, so they're going to be doing that so they can take
Okay.
municipal sludge.
The next year or so, yeah, they
Yeah.
anticipate starting construction on an anaerobic digester.
Yeah.
Which I don't know, Joe, if you were even aware that we weren't, going there. So yeah, we were very impressed with, or I shouldn't speak for everybody. I was very impressed with the scale they already have and their ability to scale even more, and what their plans for the future. Considering that Bloomington looked into an anaerobic biodigester, that's no
Right.
longer on the table,
Right. Yeah,
or at least in my knowledge, it's not.
For the input. I think that'll do it for our first item. Our second item is CAC promotion at the farmer's market. Something that Matt was looking into. Relay some information on.
Yeah, so I contacted the city of Bloomington about the farmer's market. And there's 2 options, because we've been talking about increasing participation in the CAC, recruitment essentially, and then communicating to the public what waste reduction options are. And one of those for me is your laminated paper products, your waste products, or your wax covered products that currently aren't accepted with the city's contracted company, Republic. But come June or July, with the waste reduction district signing with Rumpke can handle those things. So I think that should be a big advertising push saying you can now recycle all these products through the waste reduction district, and it's going to make the waste reduction district money at the same time. So I think that advertising is important, but it also makes sense to me to invite other committees or commissions to, once a month to share the table, to advertise what they're doing if they're not already, or to invite nonprofits like Back to Earth.
It's actually not a nonprofit.
Oh, it's not? My apologies. Okay, for profit, or other.
Even more profits.
Other entities
Sustainability.
that are doing sustainability oriented entities that are doing good work so that our community, members of the Monroe County community understand that there are these options there. So that could be Back to Earth, that could be community culture, that could be Garden Q, that could be plenty of others. But it really comes down to us having a place to educate. So there's two options. There's a free with a $15 application fee, which the gentleman said he could potentially waive. And then that's a little bit further away from the market. And then there's a closer to the market, which is $300 a year. So I would be, I know we have a budget, so we would need to approve that. And I would be willing to do 2 Saturdays a month myself for at least 2 hours to staff that.
When does the market open and close?
I don't know exactly.
About 7 a.m. to noon.
Oh, you mean, I think it's April to
I was thinking
October.
$300, and that's how many Saturdays?
It's April to October, 4 Saturdays a month. So
So it's
You're talking about
24 Saturdays.
yeah, so it comes out to $14 per, the free option's further away, but I know that we do have the budget and we haven't typically gone over our budget or even hit the budget in previous years. So to me, it would make sense at least the first year to do the paid option, and then we could assess after that. But I really see it as an option to expose the community to education and to other organizations that are working to reduce waste. So that's my take on it, but I'm obviously willing to be incorrect or accept other points of view and perspectives.
I have a question. You said their price is based on location.
So there's 2 separate locations. There's either a free one or a paid.
Okay, and is the free one not at the market?
It is, it's just significantly, well, it's further away.
Is it still at the Showers parking lot?
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
think the free area is behind the backside of the building.
Yeah.
The shower. So
Okay,
you got the west edge of the market, and then there's a little offshoot going behind the building, and I think that's the free area.
okay,
So far less visibility.
I see, okay. I didn't know that area existed.
So if we didn't have a budget, that's what we would be going for.
Right.
But since we do have a budget, it makes sense to get more visibility.
Between the building and the Beeline Trail,
Right, okay.
And then
maybe 100-yard little paved area.
And then if anybody who works with the waste reduction district wanted to do something at that, that would obviously be available for education as well. Between recruitment and education, to me, it makes sense because we want to recruit, we want to add more people who are taking action on reducing waste to join CAC.
So we're looking at, does the market open here in the next 2 to 3 weeks?
Let me do a quick search. I think it opens in.
If that, that's if it's paving is something that you want to do, I think
Right, it's have to
you
be
can
now.
figure that out now.
Yeah, and if you don't start at the beginning, I think it's prorated
Okay.
accordingly, so.
Is it, do you know if it's possible to start to make a reservation?
Yes,
after the start?
it is. Yeah, so
Your space
April 8th,
availables Be limited.
April 8th, no, sorry, April to October. So we'll be starting in April.
I think since you're a voting item that involves money, would be best to do that next month where it can be on the agenda.
Okay, sounds good.
Two initial thoughts. Well, I guess the very first thought is I like the idea, but my two subsequent thoughts are it'd be a question of staffing the table and also having resources created to be able to like distribute at the table. And if we have interest from the CDC to do both of those things, you mentioned your willingness to staff. Does anybody else have any desire or capacity for any sort of regular attendance?
I didn't expect that, which is why I said 2 weekends a month.
Okay.
But also having that reserved, I thought there would be potentially a nonprofit or others that are taking on this, that we could then say, this is available.
Gotcha.
I don't know if that's allowed or not, but once a month, would it make sense for Back to Earth to be able to advertise what you're doing to get more residents knowledgeable about it, right?
Part of what would be allowed, my initial reaction on it is that it's within some parameters. It's if the CAC votes to do this and allow other organizations to share that booth. It's your budget, it's your money, it's your call. But within parameters where I would want to maybe check with legal counsel on, doing it with for-profit entities. We have to be careful that we're not being viewed as promoting any one particular company or service over another. I'm not saying that doesn't mean you can't do that, but that's how I would want to leave.
Right, and more than anything else, we just want to let residents know that these are available. And if they want to then pursue it within their community.
And I would also say that the board would probably prefer to see, I guess, like-minded organizations that are, pursuing some of the same or similar goals.
100%.
I'm just gonna because they're on my head, I'm gonna pick on somebody. It maybe wouldn't make sense to let Pets Alive share.
Agreed.
They're not related to anything that we do.
Agreed.
Nothing against them. That just popped in my head.
Yeah.
So, and that's.
Yeah, that my idea was that it had to be related to waste reduction.
Right. Or sustainability.
Sustainability, and that's why I said community culture, growing your own food makes sense. So we're
And if somebody would take a space that you have rented, leased for that whole event thing,
Mhm.
that, what are you doing in my space? They have to leave.
Well, it would be something that would have to be
Yeah.
coordinated with those other organizations. And, are you letting them have the booth to themselves on a particular Saturday? Or are we gonna double team
That's
the
right.
booth on this Saturday?
my thought was they would be there for the first 1 or 2 times, only when I was there or another representative of CSE was there. Once we had vetted that and seen what they're doing, then we could consider allowing them to have it if nobody was going to be using it. Yeah, unsupervised, correct. But we could also say no, only when we're sharing the booth, and that's fine as well. I just know that we've been talking about recruitment and we haven't taken any action on that. So this would be a way to take action on that while spreading the education about various entities that are taking action on sustainability initiatives that residents aren't aware of.
Yeah, I do like the idea of having other organizations involved, and I think that'd also be a good way to distribute the use of the space. Since, we wouldn't necessarily need it or have capacity to staff it all the time. Do you happen to know if there are any constraints on who is able to use a given spot? Like if one organization reserves a spot at the farmer's market, do they restrict it to the use of that person, or can people share it?
I have not asked that question
Okay.
It's a
specifically,
good question.
but I have not gotten any impression that's not the case.
Okay.
What I can tell you from my experience there, is that if nobody objects to you being there, you can be there. And the objectors can be the person, if I'm encroaching on your space, you can object. If you are going against protocol, the rules of the market,
Being aggressive.
the people who run the market.
That would apply whether you registered the booth in your name or not.
Right.
Yeah, they can push you out.
Right. Which is why it makes sense to
But I think it's a good
Supervise.
question to try to get an answer to, because if you do this and reserve a booth in the Waste Reduction District CAC name, and one Saturday, the Commission on Sustainability is the only one there, you know, we want to make sure that if that's who we've scheduled to be there that day, that nobody can kick them out.
Right.
Nobody can raise a fuss about them being.
I will send an email asking specifically about this because we do want to share and promote other sustainability efforts in the city. And this is one way we see being able to do that.
I guess just sort of straw poll, is anybody opposed to using funding for that idea? I mean, we're still discussing it as though we're not, but I just want to make sure that there's actually general interest in doing it. Or at least a lack of opposition to it.
I think to fund a spot at the market is a good education opportunity.
I agree. Okay, that's
So
good.
no opposition at this point.
Right. Obviously still vote on it, but, okay,
Okay, so that'll be an agenda item next month.
yes.
So I'll send that email and find out the answer about sharing.
Okay. Terrific. Okay, any other thoughts related to that?
I kind of related to not, there's a female, a lady from the EC, the Environmental Commission of Wilmington, that wanted to come to Caldwell, but wasn't able to make it. And I did invite her to be a part to join the CAC as a recruitment effort.
Okay.
There, so.
There's no finder's fee.
I would love to see this room filled. So that's my goal.
Up to 15 members.
Well, that would be this room filled.
That's true, that's true.
Get to 15, we might have to find a bigger.
That's just
Let's see, how many do we have all together? Just six.
Six, yeah.
Thanks for now.
Yeah, we don't get to include Mr. Tom in that number.
6, 7, yeah, we could fit maybe 7 more seats.
Oh, we just have to rearrange the tables.
Right. Okay. All right, I think that'll do it then. If you didn't have anything else related to that?
No.
Okay. So that does it for our last scheduled item of new business, and that's our, I guess, all of our scheduled business. I did want to, well, I'll first ask, is there any other business that anybody else wanted to discuss that wasn't listed on the agenda?
I've missed a few meetings here lately. Not, I think I wanted to.
So I'm curious, how is the progression going for the disposal of film plastics?
Fine progression.
Well, we talked about it sometime that somebody was going to be able to take any plastics
Oh,
and break them down to whatever they needed to.
yeah, interesting that you bring that up. So, and I don't know if people will recall, there, a company called Brightmark built a facility up in Ashley, Indiana, that said that they were going to be able to take any and all plastics and break them down to their petroleum base and have two end products, a wax and a low-grade diesel fuel or diesel fuel. They filed for bankruptcy 2 days ago. Wow. Roughly 2 days ago. Now, I believe it is a Chapter 11, so it's just a reorganization. So that doesn't necessarily mean that the facility is going to go away. But they I don't know details on what's going on, but it's never been right. They've never operated at 100% capacity. One of the things I read about the bankruptcy filings, that they're currently running at 5% capacity.
Wow.
But I don't know, what's 5% capacity? Is that 100 tons a month? Is that 10,000 tons a month? I don't know. I don't know what their capacity is. But yeah, so that facility is having problems. And then I probably should have said during my district report, Joey and I actually attended the grand opening Tuesday. Republic has opened a plastics facility up in Indianapolis in partnership with a company called Blue Polymer. And so what they're doing is taking the plastics, the assorted plastics that come to them, will process them in their plastics facility and then send them next door to this Blue Polymer place where they actually will be made into new water bottles or whatever. Now, I don't know what all resin types the Blue Polymers is prepared to deal with. And I don't know that everything that's going to go through that plastics facility will go next door. Some of it will still wind up going to other facilities. But they, in the speeches during that, they consistently referred to rigid plastics. So still not doing films and styrofoam.
And rigid plastics would be number 1s through 7s, or primarily number 1s through
1 through 7, but rigid. So, and then basically what we're restricted to.
Blueberry containers.
Yeah. Now, I will let it be known that through our Green Business Network, we do currently have 1, maybe 2 clients that do have enough of their own volume of shrink wrap and the ability to bale it, that they're baling it, and we're collecting it, and we're taking it up to Quincy Recycling up in Indianapolis that can do film. The issue with us doing that on a larger scale is Quincy wants it baled. So we have some, right now we have some opportunities for some commercial entities to handle shrink wrap predominantly, but clear plastic films. But on a larger scale, we're just not set up to do anything yet. We're looking at it. We did get, I don't know if people remember, we have a small vertical baler from when we used to accept plastic bags. So we pulled that out of storage and got that hooked back up. And we'll try to get some shrink wrap from other GBN clients. But right now with Quincy, we're pretty restricted on, it's got to be clear shrink wrap. Store bags, convenience store bags.
You can use the, I guess that would be shrink wrap, stuff that goes over the styrofoam thing with the meat and the package on the shelf.
But that's going to have organic residue.
Okay, so you can't have the organic residue.
Really what we're looking at, what this is that these companies get large shipments that come in pallets, and this is plastic wrap that holds everything on the pallet.
Yeah.
Dry cleaner bags we could do if people get there, but we're right now not in a position where we're ready to try to start collecting it at the sites, because we're so restricted on what we can collect. And just worry that if we set a code or something up at the sites, people are going to immediately go back to plastic bags.
contamination galore.
And we're going to wind up having to trash it all because we'll be able to sort through it to get what we can out of it. But at any rate, it's there's some limited options there, and we're pursuing those to the degree that we think we can right now, and hopefully down the road that'll expand.
Meanwhile, I'll keep doing what I do.
And on that note, on challenges of contamination and whatnot, there was one thing I forgot to mention about Caldwell's. They kept going back to glass. And they mentioned all the glass at bars that does not make it to a recycle. So, which is a big opportunity if we could somehow figure out, because the bars don't have space. But there's some way we could figure out how to do that, either, for Rumpke or whomever. That is a big opportunity to take all this glass that is ending up in a landfill, out of the landfill, and actually turning it into a valuable end product. So I thought that was interesting how they just kept slipping glass into it, wanting to get Monroe County's glass, because it seems like they must make a nice profit off of that. So.
Yeah, they said that they take glass straight to Knopf, I think
Yeah.
they said, yeah.
Which, I think you said, the waste reduction already has an agreement with Knopf.
The vendor we use has
The
an
vendor.
agreement with Knopf.
Thank you. But yeah, that is a big opportunity with all the bars in town, and all the glass that goes into the trash. If we could figure out a solution for that, that would be fantastic. For whoever has that contract.
Space.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the early 90s, college, I bartended at it. And we actually had, at that time, a glass thing set up with Rumpke. And, things are different now, obviously, but, at that time, what Rumpke did, I don't remember how many 55-gallon drums they tried to set up behind Nick's. And that's what we would put all the glass in. And, the issues that we ran into were keeping everything out of the alley. Drunk kids come by, tip a barrel over, and now you've got a barrel of glass all over the alley. And the other issue, was, what's your biggest generation night? Saturday after a home football game. Well, they don't come collect on Sunday. And, I wasn't, managing or anything at that time. I don't remember what ultimately led to discontinuing that, but probably that the city was coming down on us and blaming Nick's for the obstructions in the alley and delivery trucks couldn't get through.
Right.
So it's space. And that's my personal experience with trying to do it at a bar here in Bloomington. The space just isn't there. Because
It would need to be a specific dumpster.
yeah, 10, 12, 15-gallon drums. And if we had a home football game, before night shift started, those were full.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After football, you need a dumpster on the widest room that way.
I just see it as an opportunity. Is there a solution that works? So I at least need to put it out there.
Any other new business items not discussed?
Oh, I will give you all a heads up that this year's Association Solid Waste District Conference is scheduled for Tuesday, October 7th and Wednesday, October the 8th at Brown County State Park.
Nice.
October 7th and 8th.
Yep.
What was that again?
October 7th and 8th.
No, the title.
That's the Association of Solid Waste Management District Annual Conference.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm getting old and I'm not as old as John, but.
You have also scheduling item. We've been talking about our June 19th CAC meeting, scheduled on a holiday.
Juneteenth.
Yeah, since everybody has their calendars open. Does anybody have any thoughts on how they want to approach it in terms of scheduling it the day before, the day after, the week before, the week after? Any initial?
And the week before is board meeting,
Oh, right. It's not.
but that's at 4 o'clock. So
I'm fine with the day before or the day after. I'm guessing people would prefer it the day before, so it's not on a Friday.
Yeah, Wednesday. Okay. So Wednesday, the 18th.
All done.
Good.
Wednesday, the day before,
Good day.
Wednesday, the 18th.
Yeah,
Would Wednesday, June 18th be okay? The day before that, Juneteenth, June 19th? We'd rather do it that Wednesday versus the Friday.
yeah, because I'll be here then.
Okay.
That's,
I'm gonna miss the May meeting. I'm gonna be out of state.
Uh, June the 18th is a fairly busy meeting day. Let's see where things are located.
To the review of last month's meeting and this month's meeting. For the board. But next week. I got that, and then I was like, well, you already sent it out, so I'm like, am I supposed to still?
It does appear this room is available.
That's right. It's important. Aspect of scheduling.
They do have an overlap in an annual room.
Oops.
So yeah, so there's the, in this room on the 18th is Parks and Rec, it just says Parks and Rec meeting, 3:30 to end. So let me check with Dina.
Okay.
In the Commissioner's office. She thinks about us scheduling a meeting at 5:30 that day.
Okay, so tentatively June 18th at 5:30. Meeting room is available.
Sounds good.
Okay. Bring us about to our end time. Is there anything quick that anybody wanted to mention? Okay. So that is all of our new business. Do you want to make an opportunity for public comment? If there's anybody I don't see on Zoom, each member of the public will have 4 minutes to speak. Indicate your desire to do so by commenting or using the raise hand feature or typing in the chat. I don't see anybody in the room, don't see anybody virtually. So I will just remind everyone that our next meeting would be scheduled for Thursday, April 17th at 5:30, same room. And if there's no objection, this meeting will be adjourned. And seeing none, we can adjourn. Thank you.